cat scorpion.
My name is Bhanu Bhatnagar, and I'm in London for the 11th annual competition of the International Yoga Sports Federation, whose goal it is to make yoga an Olympic sport. I've always thought of yoga as part of my Indian heritage. I understand it to be about transformation, personal transformation. But yoga itself seems to be transforming and being appropriated both culturally and financially as it spreads all over the world.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the 11th International Yoga Asana Championships.
Yoga, the way that we're performing it today, is a sport.
We have a rule book that we use, so it's really easy from the outside saying, well, where's all the spirituality of yoga? But when you come here, it's almost like a temple.
4 years ago, I was the only guy that competed for Ireland. Wow. I placed first, second, third, fourth by default. Right? But then this year I think it was 8 or 9 guys competing.
Defending champion, huh?
Yeah.
2013.
Yeah.
You're gonna hand the crown over this year.
No, I'm gonna hold on to that thing.
Are you?
Actually, yeah.
I don't like this spiritual enlightenment, I'm out of my body thing. I think the way there is through here. This is the mechanism.
Representing the United States of America, Joseph and Sinia.
It involves concentration, it involves balance, it involves strength, it involves flexibility and mental focus. And that's why I think yoga, especially the asana aspect of yoga, can be displayed as a competitive sport.
In first place in the new International Men's Yoga Asana Champion, Mr. Zeb Homison.
It's not about getting up there and competing with other people and beating them. It's demonstrating that total present moment and finding it on stage for a 3-minute routine.
Yoga as an Olympic sport represents just one way that yoga is changing in the modern world. Though I appreciate the physical beauty of the postures, I'm still not comfortable with the idea of yoga as a competition. It feels very far from what yoga means to me. So we're here at the yoga place in London. I used to live just down the street from here and used to walk over to practice my yoga about 6 years ago. I have good memories of this studio. Did you hear about the Yoga Sport Championships?
No, what's that about?
They get up on stage and they perform a series of poses, some of them difficult, some of them not so difficult, and they are judged.
That's ridiculous.
I was gonna ask you what your thoughts are.
Yoga shouldn't be a sport. Yoga's about a person. It's about them looking within themselves, not being compared to other people.
Besides the usual things that you would expect yoga to do, like it grounds me, it centers me, it calms me, it also reminds me that I'm trying to say something about that I'm not this center of the universe, but I am as well. Yoga reminds me that if I just am, if I just concentrate on my breath, the problems that keep going around and around in my head, none of it is real, that none of it is true, and that it's just a fabrication, an illusion. Until I was in my 20s, I had no interest in yoga. I came to it as a form of exercise. But as I got better at the physical postures known as asanas, I wanted to deepen my practice by learning more about yoga philosophy and learning how to meditate. I took a teacher training course in Thailand, and it was there that something occurred to me as I looked around the room at the other students. I was the only Indian. My instructor knew more about yoga and its Indian heritage than I did. I do consider myself a mix of East and West, born in Sweden and having lived in India as a teenager. But my yoga teacher training made me think about yoga in the modern world. How is it changing? Does it belong to India? Does it belong to anyone? And does it even matter?
Right arm comes over into your half wild thing.
I think of London as my second home, and it's exploding with trendy hybrid forms of yoga. One of them, boxing yoga, mixes traditional boxing moves with a yoga asana practice.
We don't use any Sanskrit, and we make it very accessible for people to be able to take just the physical aspect of it if that's what they want, or just the focus training if that's what they want. So to the shoulders, it's kind of up, front, up, back.
Voga is, well, voguing and yoga.
Voguing originated back in the 80s on the drag ballroom scene, and I've fused the two together. It's a homage to voguing. It obviously isn't total yoga, it obviously isn't totally voguing.
Kind of speed it up. I think we should all go out together tonight and then do a flash mob.
Marcus VEDA teaches rocket yoga. Rocket because, in the words of its San Francisco founder, it's yoga that gets you there faster.
People are looking into more different forms of mind-body exercise and meditation, and yoga is just coming up and up and up because people realize it's good for the whole of you rather than just one aspect.
Thank you for making it happen in the middle of London with everyone staring at you. Respect for carrying on through.
I used to be a DJ for 10 years, and then everyone in every club, everybody's a DJ. And now I'm a yoga teacher, and everyone's a yoga teacher, and it's the 21st century version of DJing.
For me, rave yoga is possibly the most unusual. Traditional yoga mixed with rave culture, minus the drugs and alcohol.
Nowadays, yoga is really about finding liberation or samadhi or bliss through your connection with others. So seeing the beauty in others, and that's really easy tonight because you look fantastic.
Way forward to the front of the mat, good. Inhale, hook the arms, reach up, touch back, you got it.
I think what we wanted to achieve with it is that we're building up, so it was very traditional vinyasa yoga, and then we sort of started to kind of get dancey with it, and then at the peak of it, in backbends, when you're feeling really open and energized, bring on the loud music and then everyone goes crazy.
All these new forms of yoga aren't just a fringe, they represent a massive growth in the yoga market, with international apparel companies like Lululemon Athletica opening in downtown London to grab a piece.
I think, Western mentality is a lot about business and how to promote and sell certain things, right? And that's very different from the Eastern tradition and what yoga was originally meant to be. But even, being in India for a month earlier in the year and speaking to gurus out there, they're very much adapting the Western sense. And in a way, it's kind of a shame, but I think it's how it's shifting and evolving. And it's a matter of if we can maintain the integrity of what it was originally.
But what was yoga meant to be originally? And how is it moving away from that? I went to speak with Stuart Gilchrist, who teaches a traditional and physically rigorous form of yoga.
Really simple, really straightforward. Lam, 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 ram, ram, yam, ham, om.
Yoga is about life. It's not about flexibility or gymnastic prowess. It's about life. It's what we're doing here, sitting still in front of the highway. It's what you're like with your friends and your family. It's what you're like in the restaurant. It's how you are on the bicycle. It's how you are at your work every day with your colleagues. It's not just what happens in that studio for an hour and a half every day. It's off the mat. Yoga's all off the mat. I think I was brought up in one of the most violent upbringings you could possibly imagine. I was brought up to hate Catholics, I was brought up to hate Muslims, I was brought up to hate Jews. Pretty firm to say I was a devout racist. I had a very serious accident in my lower back and I had a severe spinal injury and I was pretty much immobilized. So it was Ashtanga that got me moving, and then that opened my eyes up to the broader picture of what yoga really was.
Yoga is detachment. And from everything mental and physical, your possessions and your desires, your senses.
Everyone's attaching the word yoga to their studios and gyms and what have you. There's all kinds of hybrid yoga coming out, boxing yoga, cycling yoga, naked yoga, all kinds of stuff. What's your opinions on what's happening?
I think the corporatization and the consumerization of yoga is abhorrent. It's become so much of a business, it's become so much of a profit, and I've been referred to as a revenue stream, or my USP, my unique selling point, was I'm a 50-year-old man with dreadlocks and a beard, and I've got a very thorough style of teaching. Studios found that interesting, so studios obviously wanted me on their rota.
That was a really tough class. That was a really tough class. Because yoga is really about the mysteries of the universe, isn't it? We're kind of commercializing the mystery of the universe.
Totally, yeah.
Isn't that a travesty?
Oh, absolute disaster.
But what do we do about it?
We keep teaching, and we keep teaching something more authentic.
I'm headed to the US, where yoga was first popularized in the West. It's one of the biggest yoga markets in the world. It's mainstream, fashionable, cool, glossy. It's, well, American.
Hey, I'm Sarah Stiles, and I'm all about working hard and playing harder. I apply the same philosophy to doing yoga, staying toned, and looking good. I believe in making my own rules and injecting fun into everything I do.
Tara Stiles is symbolic of the modern transformation of yoga in America. She's created her own form of yoga, Strala, and has marketing campaigns with the W Hotel and Reebok.
Join me as we forget about being zen and start getting fabulous.
I was the first person to put YouTube videos with yoga online in like 2006, and all my friends were like, that's so crazy, like what are you doing? And I'm like, my friends back home were like, I have back pain, I have anxiety, I have stress, what do I do? And I'm like, here's something you can do to help. Close your eyes, bring your palms together, bring your thumbs right up into your heartbeat here.
The New York Times described you as a yoga rebel.
They did.
Do you see yourself as a yoga rebel?
So the whole rebel yoga idea, I think, really came out of the rebelling against the fact that it has to be in Sanskrit, or it has to be super serious, or it has to be a certain way. But if you look at the approach of what we are doing, it doesn't look rebellious. It looks very simple and soft, and it's all about ease and finding what works for you, and it's very soft. Okay, push down big, inhale up to your high lunge. And as you exhale, twist around your right side here, let your arms open nice and wide.
You're quoted as saying, "Why be Zen when you can be fabulous?" Is that correct? Is that a correct quote?
Well, that was part of the W campaign. It definitely got everybody talking.
Yes, it did.
I mean, I think the point is to get everybody talking. It's like, being Zen, I think, is...
But isn't that the point of yoga? To be, like you said, connected with yourself?
I would think being Zen is fabulous, It's the same thing.
But then, but you didn't say that. You didn't say, let's be Zen and fabulous.
Sure. Yeah. Well, fine. I think it's changing the perception and speaking to the people that have had abuse from the yoga community. It's like, oh, you went in and they said, you're not Zen today. Let me put a blanket over you. I mean, people have been like humiliated by the yoga community.
So do you think there's a little bit of sense in the yoga industry of sort of holier than thou?
Oh, hell yeah. Yeah. I'm not going to sit around and like complain about it forever. I just think it's more important to, help people to feel better.
Like, so your thing is like stripping out, I don't know, the Sanskrit, the Indianness, the spirituality maybe, I don't know, like, is that true? I mean, how would you?
Well, I took the name yoga out of my company a couple years ago, nobody noticed.
So it's just Strala.
Yeah.
But you teach yoga.
Sure.
So why did you take it out?
I think it's a new definition, it's an evolution of yoga, I mean, who are we really answering to?
Who are we ultimately answering to? India? Ancient yogis? Can India still claim yoga as its modern cultural heritage? Sheetal Shah of the Hindu American Foundation seems to think so. In 2010, they launched a Take Back Yoga campaign to raise awareness about yoga's roots.
When you walked in, this is obviously Pattabhi Jois, who's considered, the father of Ashtanga. This is the Shiva section of the mandir. For a lot of yogis, he's considered like the supreme yogi, the master of yoga.
Master of yoga.
Yeah. Vande Gurunam Charanan Vinde Sandara Shita Swatma Subhava Bodhe Nishaya.
Why does it matter that people should recognize yoga as a Hindu practice. Is that a fair thing to say?
I like the term rooted in Hindu thought, because when you say it's a Hindu practice, it gives the impression that people have to convert. You know, your average person thinks of Hinduism as caste, cows, and karma, and they have multiple arms and multiple heads. What yoga espouses is this pluralistic view, you know, that anybody can do it. The same way that Hinduism has this pluralistic view of anybody can reach divine. What's happened is that people have forgotten that yoga means much more than just exercise.
We have seen so many manifestations, I guess, of yoga, and we're seeing it in the kind of society we live in now. When does something stop becoming yoga?
I think that a lot of the new forms of yoga, they're not yoga. America is great at like taking what it likes from different cultures and then just like making it its own. And I feel like that's a little bit of what's happened with yoga. Like it's kind of made it into its own version of yoga.
So who owns yoga?
Nobody owns yoga. Yoga is for everyone.
But with Hindu roots?
It is definitely rooted in Hindu philosophy.
I'm just like confused, because I'm a Hindu. I'm a Hindu by name and because of the way I was raised, and I believe in, you know, the general teachings of Hinduism, but I'm a very open-minded individual. But I can understand what Sheetal was saying. I really understood it, that a lot of what yoga teaches us is what Hinduism teaches us. They're the same thing. So I'm conflicted now because I want yoga to be a secular thing.
The problem is, if yoga is seen as a Hindu practice, it might drive people away from it. I think it's the variety and diversity of yoga that makes it so popular. It fits the practitioner. Barstow, population 23,000. Halfway between Los Angeles and Las Vegas, in the heart of the Californian desert. It's an unlikely place to be doing yoga. But I'm not here to do just any yoga. I'm meeting the ladies of Praise Moves, a Christian alternative to yoga.
And this is the very church my husband and I got married in. He never thinking he would be a pastor, you know.
Yeah.
I went to a yoga class in Kansas.
Okay.
And I couldn't do any of the moves. You know what I mean? It's such a workout.
It is hard, yeah.
I came and I asked my husband, I don't want to offend you in any
Yeah,
way,
yeah, yeah.
you know, but I said, Dave, can I do a yoga class in Barstow? I know they have them. Can I do it? And he said, wait a minute. It all stems from a religious philosophy, you know, Hinduism, which we're not.
Yeah.
And we respect you guys, but
Sure.
we're just not
Yeah,
Hindus,
yeah,
you know?
absolutely, yeah.
And so he got on the internet and he found this Lorette Willis Praise Moves where you do similar positions, but we quote scripture.
Your body is the temple of the Holy Spirit who is in you, whom you have received from God. You are not your own. You are bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your body. 1 Corinthians 6:19.
And that's why we're thrilled to death. We have praise moves because we can take care of our bodies and learn scripture and get it in our mind.
Bhanu's going to join our class today, so that's really exciting. It's definitely for men too. Super. Okay, we're going to start with Mount Zion posture. And let's roll our shoulders, okay, because we've been sitting for a while, huh? Let's try some movements of the arms too while we're here. Just get in. Nice movements, back and forth. And then we're going to come forward, reaching down, kind of like a windmill. Good. And it's good if we could all go the same way. The effective fervent prayer.
The effective fervent prayer
of a righteous man.
of a righteous man
Avails much.
Avails much.
James 5:16.
James 5:16.
I'm doing yoga poses while reciting biblical scripture. I don't have any problem with the exercise, but I find the whole situation rather odd. It looks and feels like yoga, but is it?
Job 33:4.
Job 33:4.
We're certainly aware that it looks like yoga, you know. That's totally fine if people say that. But we believe yoga is a spiritual practice. And we're not doing that. Dear Lord, thank you.
Dear Lord, I thank you.
We can all pray too. We just thank you, Lord. That's really all we have to say. You're an awesome God, and we appreciate you giving us your word so we can move our bodies and stay healthy.
The debate over whether yoga is religious isn't just limited to the walls of churches and temples in America. It's found its way into the courtrooms, too.
All right, a group of parents in Encinitas, California, have their own warrior stance on free yoga classes being taught in their school district, saying yoga is a form of indoctrination.
The parents in this room that don't want yoga taught and practiced in the Encinitas school district say that it cannot be separated from religion.
Children were being led through sun salutation while being asked questions about why they were thankful to the sun. They were being asked to thank the sun for things. They were led in something called a namaste circle, where they were asked to acknowledge the light in each other. And what I found was that they were not at all talking just about exercise. They were talking about teaching children life skills based in yogic philosophy. That's almost a direct quote. Yoga philosophy is a very specifically religious philosophy.
The big story here is that America's been sold a lie. Yoga is being marketed deceptively.
Dean Broyles is a lawyer who represented the parents in their lawsuit against the Encinitas school district.
Americans started to say, oh, I can adopt this as exercise because we like to be healthy. And they think that by removing the meditation and the Sanskrit terms, that suddenly transforms yoga into a non-religious practice. But social science research has proven that just doing the poses and just doing yoga breathing is enough to cause spiritual transformation.
So have you ever done yoga before?
By accident. Actually,
How is that possible to do that by accident?
Well, it was just two moves, I think, in a P90 video.
Okay, yes.
That I realized later were I think one of them was a downward dog, and I think one pose was the warrior pose, and I realized later that those were yoga poses, and so I don't do that anymore.
But do you call it yoga? It's just a pose, right? Is it going to take you away from God to do that pose once in a while?
I'm not going to find that out because I've stopped doing it. But if you asked Hindus in India if yoga is religious, what do you think they would tell you?
I think you'd get a mixture of answers, to be honest with you.
Well, I think the vast majority would say yes, it is.
Children all over Encinitas are spontaneously at birthday parties, playgrounds, at weekdays and weekends, getting into the lotus position, putting their hands in the Jhana Mudra, and meditating.
It seems to me that Dean Broyles and the Encinitas school case is part of a larger culture war in America, and it's hard for me to see yoga dragged into that battle. Back in LA, my friend Karen invited me to her neighbor's 4th of July party, and I suspect Dean would have had a problem with what was going on there.
It's my first July 4th in America, and I couldn't ask for anything better. It's like proper Americana, and there's kids doing yoga. It's great. Bridge. Amazing. I think kids are the ultimate yogis. Living in the moment, as children do. So I think we can learn a lot from kids. I love it.
Diamond Dallas Page is a former WWF wrestler, and he's created his own brand of yoga, DDP Yoga.
Flexibility is one thing. Core strength is a whole nother animal. 1, 2. Focus on your breath and lock it out. DDP Yoga, baby. It ain't your mama's yoga.
I wonder how flexible he is. How are you, man? Good to meet you, finally. Very good to meet you.
What's your first name?
Bhanu.
Bhanu?
Yes.
Like Bhanu, but Bhanu.
Yes, exactly. How are you?
I'm a guy who wouldn't be caught dead doing yoga. The first 42 years of my life, with the guys that I was brought up with. And
yeah. What was it seen as, like pansy or kind of?
Yeah, that and feminine. And it's so far from the truth, but I wasn't going to do it until I blew my back out. I just signed a multi-million-dollar 3-year deal.
Wow.
So I'll try anything at that point. So then I started to figure out, okay, well, let me see. If I flex here and I pull here and I just start pulling, just like I'm engaging, just like I'm curling. Look at my heart rate right now. 115, 116, just pulling them. But I'm also flexing my quads, flexing my glutes. I'm gonna pull you in, help you feel better, and then you're gonna wanna do more. And then you're gonna get excited. What's up, bro?
Hey, there we go.
Bang! That's what DDP yoga is. At any level, anyone can do this. And I take all the spiritual stuff out of it. I call spiritual mumbo jumbo. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It just, it doesn't
Just not
work.
for you.
Doesn't work with my people. Inhale. Touchdown. I developed this for guys originally. Exhale. Real low for 5, 4, can't hear you. 3, 2, 1, and hold. Take it up. Count it back. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Fold it. All the yogis are over there all doing all their different kind of yoga. Cool. Few of them are gonna come over here though. You know, because they're gonna love the energy of that. Like I would, if I saw someone doing what I was doing, I'd come over here. Because obviously I want to be a part of that. Make some noise. Attention. At ease. I made a lot of money in professional wrestling, really towards the end of my career. I didn't make any in the beginning for years. But DDP Yoga has already doubled everything I made there. I'm not trying to change yoga in any way. I'm trying to change the way people look at the word yoga. That's it.
It ain't your mama's yoga.
It ain't.
One thing is for sure. The opportunity for money in yoga is changing the way people think about yoga, and maybe even the way they're practicing it. According to a recent Yoga Journal study, there are 20 million yoga practitioners in America, and over 40% of adults say they want to practice. At a Yoga Journal conference in San Diego, business is booming.
Whoa, cool. What's this?
It's to simulate paddleboard on the water,
Okay.
right? But we just do it indoors.
Oh, how interesting.
I am attracted to growth industries. That's where you're going to expand and you're going to make some money. Yoga is obviously one of those. It has become huge. Remember, when you can't go outdo, you got to go indo.
This appears to be a booth where I can get my picture taken and put on the cover of Yoga Journal. It's kind of cool. And when I came here, I was like, whoa, there's a lot of people. It's just a little bit, too much. But now I'm like a kid in a candy store. I'm totally falling for it, you know? All these like products and, yoga paraphernalia, spiritual materialism.
It's saffron, and we donate for every mat sold. We donate.
There's people that they're not in this necessarily to make money. They're trying to spread the joy of yoga. But at the same time, for us to exist, we have to be a business.
That was really good.
As more and more people capitalize on the growth of yoga, that means being competitive in the business world. One area hotly contested today is intellectual property ownership. In the yoga world, the battle over intellectual property started in 2002 when Bikram Chaudhry tried to copyright his sequence of 26 poses in a heated room. Bikram is arguably one of the most influential and controversial names in yoga today, with over 900 affiliated studios around the world. He's facing allegations of sexual misconduct from former students and criticism over his efforts to copyright his sequence. Mark Drost is a former student who spent many years teaching at the Bikram School in LA. When he left to start his own studio, he was sued by Bikram.
He sued us on many different fronts, many false charges, but the core of it, the goal of it, was to get us tied up in court on the issue of the sequence. And a summary judgment was won on our part to dismiss that idea because it's very clear that there is no such thing as a copyright protection for a yoga sequence in United States law.
One company that successfully got a patent for its approach to yoga is YogaGlow, a leader in online yoga classes. They've patented the way in which their classes are filmed. Derek Mills is YogaGlow's founder.
This is it.
Very nice.
This is where we hold our classes. We have this set up such that the camera is at the back of the room. We wanted to create an experience that was not like a filming studio or recording studio.
So is it the placement of the camera and the height? Is that sort of relevant to your patent?
Yeah, there are a variety of specifications. There's the camera placement, the height, the corridor, the details of the corridor. And there are other specifications as well.
Okay. Do you know them off the top of your head?
It's
all right. I don't want to put you on the spot.
I leave
There's probably
that,
a lot of numbers involved.
I leave that to the intellectual property attorneys. A lot of work goes into the entire class creation process to make sure that what people experience online is a high quality, safe experience. It's a look and feel that people have associated with Yoga Glow, and it's a look and feel that we certainly plan to protect.
Last year, Yoga Glow did set out to enforce its intellectual property rights. They informed a competitor, Yoga International, that some of its yoga videos would be in violation of their pending patent.
We received a letter from a legal firm who was representing an organization called Yoga Glow. The letter essentially said that we were in violation of their pending patent. It has come to our attention that Yoga International operates the website yogainternational.com, which streams online fitness classes that mimics the method and technique set forth in Yoga Glow's U.S. patent application, which is enclosed for your reference. The patent is pretty straightforward. I mean, they've patented putting a camera in the back of a yoga classroom, having an aisle down the center, which seems fairly obvious because without an aisle you wouldn't be able to see the teacher, and pressing play. And that doesn't seem to a lot of people like a particularly novel idea or something that's really worthy of an invention, which is what patents are for, protecting intellectual property rights of inventors.
Are you trying to patent your own style of shooting a class now here at this organization?
The truth is we've thought about whether it's prudent to seek to patent our own camera angles, because what happens if those get taken up? I mean, it leads to those types of questions. How do we know what's going to be left if we don't do it? What you would think would be the most important thing is, what is the quality of the teaching that you're giving? Are you doing something that's helping people, or are you doing something that's not helping people? But this doesn't even look at that. This is looking at what camera angle are you filming from. It's not even about yoga at all. It's really about this core business. But it has deep-reaching implications into what the future of yoga is going to look like.
Yoga Glow has an impressive repertoire of classes and teachers, but owning a camera angle and stopping others from filming a certain way seems to me like it could prevent people from sharing yoga. And besides, people have been filming yoga this way for more than 20 years. I showed Derek a video of Pattabhi Jois teaching yoga.
That video was shot in 1993, clear central aisle. As you can see, obviously the mats are in a different place, but I don't see how that's different from your patent.
So the mats are configured differently?
Well, they are configured differently, but so basically what you're telling me is the difference is the configuration of your mats?
Correct. With the mats facing, forward and, in parallel to the corridor, you are transformed, you're taken into the studio with real students. There may be other differences relative to
But you can understand people saying, how is that an invention? Can you understand how people would ask that question?
I would encourage you to go look at the specifications of the patent, because there are a variety of them.
A few weeks after filming this interview, Derek published a blog post saying that Yoga Glow has forfeited its patent. However, he says they will continue to protect the look and feel of their online classes, which to me sounds like just another approach to owning yoga. Not everyone who's contributed to the evolution of yoga feels they need to protect it. Brazilian-born Dharmamitra is a respected yoga teacher in New York City. He's been practicing yoga postures for decades and has even created some of his own, offering them as a gift to the world.
It was a pleasure to meet you. I'm busy doing my handstand practice. So my coins are
Here's one for you. Got it?
Uh-huh.
Oh. I have hundreds of poses that I'm not saying I create, but due to lots of practice, this variation came, but I don't say it belongs to Dharmamitra. This is universal. It's from yoga, not from Dharma. I don't have any ego here. Ego is the second cause of pain and suffering. It's very difficult to escape it. Everything I do, I don't think is that perfect. You understand? I think here in this physical plane is impossible to do something perfectly. But of course, deep inside you have your good intention to do it perfectly and do your best. So that's the main thing. I don't care about the results. Now, hold on. Firmly.
Did you go to study in India, or where did you, who do you, consider?
I never been in India in my life. What's the point? I love one day to see all these holy places. But there is a point in yoga when you find something inside. The India is inside you. All right, the lion.
Yeah, the lion.
1, 2, and...
I was heading to India, to the roots of yoga. Before going, I spent an afternoon with Sharon Gannon and David Life at their home in upstate New York.
We're looking for a cat totem, so we've been told. There.
If you do yoga, you've most likely heard of them. They're the founders of Jiva Mukti, a widely practiced yoga method.
Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu means may all beings, each and every one, everywhere, be happy and free. And may the thoughts, words, and actions of our own life contribute in some way.
When we started teaching, yoga was not a career. In fact, it was seen as kind of where losers might have a possible last chance to do something in their life, because they didn't have anything else going. And it's not that now. It's a
big business.
It's a big business. Yeah. It's a career of choice.
Traditionalists on the one hand and innovators on the other, David and Sharon have turned yoga into activism, animal rights and veganism in particular.
A yogi is someone who is striving to live in harmony with the earth, with the environment, with other animals. Would you like a fairy hat?
Yeah. You wear one too.
Yogis were not supposed to become involved in politics or activism of any sort. They should be passive, self-satisfied, and content in their little lotus hut, right? Our students come to class, and they find peace, but then they go out and they make peace.
All over the West, yoga has turned into a purely physical practice. What are your thoughts on that? And do you think even the physical practice is a good place to start?
There's no such thing as a purely physical practice. That's the first error.
We need to have a new perspective so that no longer is spirituality in opposition to physicality, but that nature and the world, the earth, is seen as a spiritual place as well. Grandmother oak tree's nectar.
Oh yeah?
Put it on your face. Grandmother oak tree, I speak on behalf of humanity. May you forgive our bumblingness. May you guide us so that we can live more kindly on this planet and enhance all of life on this earth. Yes, we're tree huggers, and we're not ashamed of it.
For many in the yoga community, India isn't just a country. It's a place to find yourself, to find wisdom, the birthplace of yoga. For me, India is all of those things and a part of my heritage. You would think yoga has always been popular in India, but like in the West, yoga has experienced a resurgence in recent years, and no one epitomizes that revival more than Swami Ramdev. He's a household name, and his yoga is a political one. He's an outspoken supporter of the nationalist Bharatiya Janata Party and Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who himself practices yoga and recently spoke about its benefits at the United Nations.
योग हमारी पुरातन पारंपरिक अमूल्य देन है.
The BJP won a landslide victory in the last general election. Swami Ramdev was credited with bringing people out to vote.
क्रांति से कहा जाए तो पहले योग क्रांति हुई, फिर उसके बाद हमने एक वैचारिक क्रांति हुई, क्योंकि एक विचार हमने करोड़ों लोगों तक फैलाया और परिवर्तन के लिए एक ज़मीन तैयार की, और उस चेंज के लिए जो हमने ग्राउंड तैयार किया था, उससे इस देश में एक राजनीतिक क्रांति भी हो गई, राजनीतिक परिवर्तन भी हो गया.
But yoga is facing the same political battles in India as in America. The Supreme Court in India is now considering whether yoga is secular and should be taught in schools. Swami Ramdev thinks it should.
योग से हानि क्या है? योग से हानि कोई भी नहीं है और योग से किसी का मजहब नहीं बदलता. तो योग 100% सेक्युलर है और इस सेक्युलर प्रैक्टिस को करने में आपत्ति क्या है?
The battle isn't only over the secular nature of yoga, it's also about national heritage. In response to US copyright claims, the Indian government has taken steps to create a traditional knowledge database of yoga poses to prevent anyone from trying to own yoga.
योगा के ऊपर किसी का कॉपीराइट नहीं हो सकता. ये किसी की बपौती नहीं है, किसी की जागीर नहीं है, तो ऋषियों का है और ये सबके कल्याण के लिए है. योग में किसी भी प्रकार से पेटेंट का प्रोसेस, योग में किसी भी तरह की रॉयल्टी, स्वामित्व, उसको अपना कहना, ये अज्ञानता है, ये धूर्तता है, ये नीचता है और ये अमानवीयता है और ये योग के सिद्धांतों के खिलाफ है.
Swami Ramdev has shown that yoga can bring about political change, but I'm concerned that politics can change yoga too, and that using yoga in politics could be just another way that people try to own it. I've come to southern India to meet Sadhguru Jaggi Vasudev, who describes himself as a mystic and yogi and has followers around the world.
Yoga Yoga Yogeshwaraya.
I'm drawn to Sadhguru. He appeals to the young and urban middle classes of India. He speaks their language. He speaks to me. During the festival of Guru Purnima, Sadhguru unveils a new statue of Shiva, also known as the Adi Yogi, the first ever yogi.
The whole system of Hatha Yoga is just this, to bring your system to a certain level of symmetry, where it is a certain geometric perfection to you that if you sit or stand here, everything is at ease.
How do you think India is changing today, and is that having an impact on yoga in India?
See, it's not just India, the whole world. The moment human intellect starts asking pertinent, relevant questions, belief systems will start collapsing. They will look for something more sensible, more scientific, which appeals to their logic, and above all, something that works.
So is that why you think yoga is becoming as popular as it is?
Because
or are there other reasons?
It makes sense and it works. There's no other reason.
There's a lot of innovation in yoga. Is that a good thing? Is that just part of the…
That is the most painful part.
Okay, explain that to me.
You don't wear a garland for its thread, you wear it for your flowers. But there is never a garland without a thread. It is the most vital thing. So you can add whatever you want, but you don't distort the thread. You cannot do innovations in the fundamental dimension of yoga. But from your experience, you can add various dimensions to it without distorting the fundamental nature of what it is.
Has yoga moved beyond being Indian?
Just because sun touches Indian shores before it touches Doha, can we claim sun is Indian? Because yoga is just like that, it's a certain light that arose here first. This does not mean it's in Indian in any sense. India as an identity today is a national and a political identity. Yoga does not belong to that identity at all. It is the sickness of modern societies today, that if I discover something in nature, I must own it. Intellectual property. What I'm saying is, the nature of this culture has always been, if something is for the well-being of human beings, nobody can ever own it, it must belong to everybody.
I agree with Sadhguru. Yoga should belong to everyone, but I'm afraid that simple truth is getting lost in a world that's so commercialized and politicized. I set out to ask who owns yoga, but I'm finding the question an impossible one to answer. What I have found in my journey is that no matter how much people try to own it, yoga remains deeply personal.
Yoga is all about intention. It doesn't matter whether you can stand on your head or you can do a handstand or something like that. It's the intention that you come with to the mat. And so the intention that you come with to the Ganges or any other place of faith or pilgrimage is a beautiful thing.
Before heading back home, I went to meet an old high school friend of mine who's now living in Delhi. Amit and I both practice yoga, but we've had very different journeys. I came to yoga as a physical exercise. Amit came to yoga as a last resort. He's a recovering cancer patient who turned his life around when the doctors said there was no hope. He brought it all home to me.
Yoga, meditation was such a key part of getting me mentally to the right place, to not only fight the disease, but to accept it, and then one step further to embrace it. I'm here, I'm a product of having tried so many different things and finding the right combination that worked for me. And I think we all need to be on those journeys of self-exploration to find what works for us, because that is what's going to get us there.
I'm back in Doha, back to my life, working in a fast-paced newsroom and teaching yoga. I've come to realize that there are as many yogas in the world as there are people. When I see the diversity of yoga today and all the fascinating people I've spoken to, even those I disagree with, I can't help but feel proud that this ancient Indian science of the soul is relevant and applicable even now, no matter where I am in the world.
I think by virtue of connecting your breath with your body, I think is a profoundly powerful activity. It sounds so simple, but I do try and live my life or see the world through yogic eyes.
And I kind of feel like my own life could be a metaphor for what's happening to yoga. Indian but not Indian. Spiritual but not religious. And on that point, I feel that yoga has become a more spiritual undertaking for me, more so than before. But I'm coming to realize that my yoga journey is just beginning, and that journey is unique to me.